The Revengers, the official movie and TV podcast of Revenge of the Fans.
And welcome to episode 29 of The Revengers.
The official movie and TV podcast of Revenge of the Fans. That lovely voice you just heard was none other than my wife, Kristen Robles, making a cameo here to start the show. And the unfortunate voice you're listening to right now is my cold and nasal voice. This is Mario Francisco Robles here with you, joined finally with my Revengers cohorts. The Trinity is back together and we're on our regular schedule. This is unbelievable. So we got Vanessa Lee Bontea.
Hola.
And we've got Brett Thomas Miro.
I just had Tums and now my seltzer's reacting oddly in my mouth.
That's a great way to greet everyone. But so guys, I kind of want to just dive right into the thing that's been on my mind all weekend, because you know what happened on Friday? I recorded the Fanboy podcast, I edited it, I published it, and the second I did, Todd Phillips broke the internet by posting a camera test with Joaquin Phoenix, showing him off in some clown makeup. And I'm like, of course he did this as soon as I was done recording. So the whole weekend was just me watching in amazement at all this amazing Joker content and not having a podcast to vent about it on. And now we're doing it together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this Joker thing really, I remember I was skeptical. I was skeptical about whether or not as a business approach it made a lot of sense to make the movie. But you know what? Now that it's happening, I am so on board and so ecstatic about this thing. But have you guys been seeing the set videos and the makeup tests and all this stuff?
Yeah, it looks insane. I was in the same boat as you. I was skeptical too. But that camera test with just the images superimposed on Joaquin Phoenix's face and then that smile at the end.
Yep, it was
great.
Really, really creeped me out. Brett,
yeah.
I know your favorite part is the end, right?
Yeah, so I've been absolutely obsessed, really obsessed. All I've been doing is I've saved literally every photo I found of him. I've saved on my phone. That's why when you guys texted me earlier, I fired them off rapid fire. They were there already. I had them as I've been sending them to everyone I know. So I know I was ranting and raving. We had a whole conversation about it on the last episode that you and I did together. And I was kind of ranting and raving about, why does this movie exist? Is it going to be confusing? The whole rigmarole we've been kind of going through. But now I just don't care anymore. And I'm so in. I'm so in. I'm obsessed. I love the look. Joaquin Phoenix, I know, is just I respect him so much as an actor. So I mean, I don't care anymore. I'm trying not to feed into all this. We'll talk about it later, but all this toxicity and I don't want it, I don't need it, it's stupid, blah blah blah. I'm just trying not to do that anymore. I really need to stop. I've been part of the problem a little bit too. I this movie looks great. It sounds great. Everyone involved, it's awesome, and I want to see this movie, and I'm happy it's existing now.
Yeah, it's amazing what a good movie can do, right? Because all of our concerns about, is the continuity going to get confusing? Is it too soon to be doing Elseworld tales while we have, Jared Leto walking around as he's still currently the Joker and in theory going to be appearing with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn in a later movie? All these questions, all this uncertainty flies right out the window as soon as you see a movie that excites you. And that's something I've been talking about for years. And that's something that one of our podcast partners here at Revenge of the Fans, Aaron Varola, co-host of the Fanboy Garage, I'm sure he's not going to be happy to hear that because he is the continuity king, and we can have him on here to argue this with us one day. But I've been telling Aaron forever, listen, all this stuff about canon and continuity and this and that goes right out the window as long as the movie's good. Nothing else matters. And that's exactly what happened with this Joaquin Phoenix Joker thing. And, basically, I would say for the last month or so, every little thing, because, the thing on Friday wasn't the first post Todd Phillips has posted. He's done some other like black and white stuff, and it just I've been on the edge of my seat waiting for this thing for a while. And the notable thing is too, as I mentioned on Fridays, I hear this is not his final look. There's going to be more to his look. I don't want to kind of get too deep into it, but I just know that he's going to go through another sort of transformation throughout the movie. So it's kind of like we're going to see him in various stages of this. Just like on Friday, we saw him in regular clothes with the makeup on. Then we saw him with an actual more traditional Joker getup and the makeup on. We're going to see it sort of evolve. So I kind of can't wait to see what like the final look ends up being. But all I know is as soon as it hit, a source of mine kind of just hit me up right away and be like, by the way, this looks amazing, and it's not even the final look yet. And I'm like, oh, wow, I can't wait to see what it is.
I love how colorful it is.
I mean, it's very like John Wayne Gacy. It's very like serial killer terrifying.
Yeah, I just love that he's in like this red suit with this yellow vest and the green shirt. It's compared to, Heath Ledger playing the Joker in the previous films. It was a lot more darker of an image, and I don't know, the colors jumped out to me, and I love the use of it. I don't know if it's specific or if it has any meaning, but I like that.
I've heard the comparison too, that it's very Pagliacci, the opera, if you've ever heard of that. It's like an Italian opera it's based in like a circus and has all the clowns, and the makeup's very reminiscent of that, almost like a callback to that, which is it's cool. It's a very classic clown look, and it almost makes it more creepy.
And by the way, I mean, Todd Phillips even tonight went on Instagram and posted something, and it's hard to tell if it's Phoenix or not. But he posted a picture of just like a full-on clown kind of sitting off to the side, like between takes. And the clown is just kind of like looking over their shoulder at him as he takes the picture. And I think it's unclear if that's Phoenix or not, because he's got like, if you find the picture, he has like a wig on and a clown nose. But if you look at like the mouth and the eyes, it looks like it might be like Phoenix. So like we might also see him as a full-on clown at some point. That's why I'm saying that the look is evolving. And, and by the way, I have a total crazy conspiracy theory. I spoke about it earlier today. I was a guest on another podcast called the Comic Cast, and we were talking about this. And okay, listen, this is total just my own mindless drivel nonsense. Okay, this is not informed by any sort of insider information. I have no backing for this. It's just a weird hunch I'm having. Okay, so when you look at some of these pictures of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker on the subway platform, stuff that hit the web on Saturday, when you look at the nuances of the costume and the layering and like the shirt he has on under, it is almost a little too reminiscent of the Heath Ledger Joker, if you ask me. And then that's not a knock on it. I love it. But if you look at like the weird texture on his green button down, followed by the vest and then the loose fitting jacket, and then the way his hair sits, like I almost wonder if we're actually being hoodwinked a little bit and they're trying to throw us off the scent. And if there maybe is some misdirection going on here, and that little clip and whatever that they released was actually kind of a stunt, and that we really don't know what he's going to look like fully just yet. That's just, like I said, that's my conspiracy theory. But if you look at what, kind of like, I don't know, what set up an alarm for me was that even the shirt he has on, if you look close, it's very reminiscent of the shirt that Heath Ledger wears in that iconic scene when he's in the prison, where it's green, but it has these little dark little patterns on it. Like, it's not a typical Joker look. It's Heath Ledger's Joker's look. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why, but a part of me wondered, they seem to be very clever. They seem to know how to work the paparazzi and the social media to create buzz. They seem to know exactly what they're doing over there. And is it completely crazy to think that they might be trying to throw us off by putting out a decoy look for him?
Huh, that's interesting. It does have the same circular patterns.
Yeah, it's too similar. Yeah, and that's the thing. If Joker
I've
always
seen that, I don't really buy that. I mean, like, listen, the suit looks it, but I don't think he looks like Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, I see everyone making that comparison online, and it's like it's a suit. Like, you know, they even alluded in Dark Knight, right? It was like, you know, they couldn't find any tags or labels. It was custom. Like, Joaquin Phoenix's looks like something you found in like a thrift shop. You know what I mean? Like an old suit, just whatever was lying around. So I think people are digging a little deep on that, in my opinion. But whatever, teach their own.
But how crazy would it be, though? Like, okay, you know what? I'm going to let it go because I know it's a crazy conspiracy theory. But let's just circle back to it a year from now. When the movie comes out, if I somehow end up being right, can I get, like, a lot of credit, please? I just need it.
You can get so much credit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
I don't think they would go that far, but who knows?
I don't
Like, that it would be like a
Sometimes
Heath Ledger Joker
it could
origin
be-
story? I don't know.
No,
It
I
could
don't
be
think
an
that.
homage.
I think that maybe this stuff that we saw on Saturday isn't in the movie. I think it might have been a stunt.
Oh, just that it's a total
Yeah, like I
stunt.
think
Okay.
it's misdirection. I think that's not really how he's going to appear, and they're doing this to try to work the audience a little bit. They're trying to, like, you know, throw us off, and we're going to be totally surprised by what ends up actually being in the film. Which, if you think about something as mischievous as the Joker, and with the way that they're sort of playing this, is it totally out of the question that they could be trying to fool us? It's a very Joker thing to do. Anyway,
Yeah.
It could be an homage, I think.
it could
You
be.
know?
It could be.
It could be a slight homage to Heath Ledger, especially since he's not here with us anymore, and he, you know, won an Oscar for the role. I just think the hair is very similar. I mean, Jack Nicholson as the Joker had shorter hair, and I think the hair is very similar in Phoenix's and Ledger's hair, so maybe that's what people are seeing. The makeup is similar, but it's the Joker. Like, how different can you make the makeup, you know?
But let's also not forget, too, Heath Ledger's Joker was somewhat radical because he wore makeup. In general, the Joker's origin is that he falls into a vat of chemicals and all his skin is white. And then he just draws the red lips on himself or whatever. But, like, you know, the mere fact that he's going for a Joker who puts face makeup on is also very Ledger-ish. Anyway, I'm not, you know, this is just my crazy conspiracy theory. We can move on. The main thing is I'm very, very excited about this movie, and it seems like maybe this Elseworld thing will, you know, may just work out after all. That, like, are you guys believers now in this idea of we could have the main continuity movies and movies like Joker that are just a standalone crazy experience all into itself?
Sure.
I mean, I just want good movies, and like I've said ad nauseum, just give me good movies, and I'm totally cool with the Elseworlds, like one-off little contained things. I personally don't care if we get a shared universe at this point. You know, a quote unquote shared universe. Like if next year they're just like, hey, we're doing a world's finest Batman Superman movie, and it's not an origin story. They've known each other and been working together for years, and it's just a mission that's good for Batman and Superman together. Cool. You know, if it's a good movie, you'll get the history that they have together, you know, throughout the dialogue and how they interact with each other. Like, that's what storytelling is. So I don't need the shared world, you know. And, you know, even like with the Marvel stuff, like I feel myself. I mean, even though like I say this and then every time I go and see the movie, I usually love it. But like the Marvel movies, like, you know, I'm getting a little fatigued on them. They have, you know, we've talked about the Marvel formula over and over. Everyone talks about that. I'm a little like getting like run down with like keeping up with all of them. And I definitely am not. I'm still going to see them, but I'm not running out to see them quite like I used to, with the exception of like Infinity War. So, you know, I think it'd be refreshing for DC to just like you know, totally buck that trend and just do what they do, and like give me little Nolanverse isolated trilogies and things like that. I don't need it to be a whole everything's connected 40 movies. Like, I don't need it.
Yeah, it's something I'm very intrigued by the way, is that when this Joker movie first arrived on everyone's radar, when it was first announced, the big thing was that it was going to be what kicked off a whole secondary production banner at DC Entertainment. They were going to give it its own branding. People are thinking it's going to be something like DC Black Label or DC Black, or maybe even they hug and embrace the whole Elseworld thing from the comics and call it DC Elseworlds. But either way, you know, that was part and parcel of the original announcement. Yet here we are now with the movie in production with, some form of promotion already underway. Because that video that Phillips put up on Friday was very polished. It was not just like, here's a grainy video from my cell phone. Like, that was a fairly orchestrated tease. So this movie is off to the races and being put into the collective, consciousness of the public, and yet they have yet to really distinguish it as something separate yet. They haven't announced what this new production label will be called, and they seem to have kind of almost backed off a little bit on how hard they wanted to emphasize that this is separate. It almost makes me wonder if they are monitoring the way people are responding. And maybe there is this idea of maybe we don't have to call attention to the fact that it's separate. Maybe all these movies are just going to be separate from now on. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm just curious about that because you'd think that before they started promoting this, that before they started getting people to start getting excited about this movie and talking about the release date and talking about the makeup and talking about all the other things, that they would have by now made it clear to general audiences that this is something totally separate. But as of right now, they are not emphasizing that at all. Do you think there's anything to that?
Yeah, maybe they just don't want that to become the story, because then instead of looking at the makeup and Joaquin Phoenix and all this cool stuff, now you're going to be like, why are they making it separate? Why is it not part of the thing? Why are they calling it this? That's a stupid sub-production label for it. If that's going to become the dialogue is going to be DC can't make up their mind. They're splitting off. They're branching out, where I think this just works better and just says, hey, look, we're making a Joker movie, and look at it. And I think people are still kind of divided at this point, but I mean, I think a lot of people also think it's really, really cool. And that's become the conversation now. Joaquin Phoenix and his portrayal and what this movie is going to be versus what banner it's going to fall under. So I think there's a reason why they haven't really gone into that.
That's a good counterpoint. I'll accept that. But all right, you know what? I think we've done about 16 minutes of gushing about the Joker. What do you guys say we get into the week's top news?
Oh, the top news?
The top spot this weekend at the box office belonged to The House with a Clock in Its Walls. The Jack Black family film made $26.6 million. Listen, I'm not stopping again. We're going to plow on through. So it opens at $26.6 million. The Universal film only cost $42 million to make, and it's made $35.6 million worldwide to date. It's got a B+ cinema score. Through this whole Halloween season we're heading into, the fact that it's a spooky movie for kids and families, this thing is going to make plenty of money when all is said and done. So it's another nice family film victory for Jack Black. In second place is the Paul Feig, I never know how to say his name. The Paul Feig directed comedy, A Simple Favor. I think it's a comedy, starring Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. That film opened to some money. Let's see. No, actually, this is its second weekend. This is what we get for not doing the box office last week or doing a show last week. So A Simple Favor in its second weekend made $10.2 million. In third place, there's The Nun hanging in there, 3 weeks going strong, and then it's in third place. It made $9.9 million, cooling 45.4% in its third frame. In fourth place, there is Fox's The Predator, which Brett and I discussed at length last time we did a show without you, Vanana, and that one made $9.1 million. Right now, that's on its way to being a big old disappointment. It cost $88 million to make, and through all these weeks, it's only made $95.8 million. Did I say all these weeks? I meant in these 2 weeks, which is really abysmal. No, but it's really abysmal because that second weekend drop, we're looking at a 62.7, so basically 63% drop, and it didn't open that big to begin with. So The Predator is not looking so hot for Fox. On the other hand, Warner Brothers is continuing to laugh all the way to the bank because aside from having The Nun in third place, there is in fifth place, they've got Crazy Rich Asians, which pulled in another $6.3 million. To date, the $30 million movie has made $206.6 million worldwide. So that is your box office top 5. Not a lot to really comment on this or analyze. There was Fahrenheit 11/9 opened up and that kind of bombed, and people were sort of surprised by that. But
I was gonna go see that yesterday, but
yeah, it was just kind of a quiet weekend at the box office. The House with the Clock in its Walls did what it did, and I think it's time to move on to our next story. What do you say, Brett? What should we talk about next?
Well, you know what? Why don't we talk about those birds of prey?
Ah, yes,
because
that's right.
They finally have a release date.
Yes, they do. And Vanana, why don't you let everyone know what the release date is for the DC Femme Fatale film Birds of Prey?
The Birds of Prey movie is going to be released on February 14th?
Nope.
No,
you
February
failed.
7th.
Yes, you had one job to do. Okay, yes, February 7th, 2020 is when Birds of Prey will be coming out. And what's notable, and you know what? I can see why you would think about February 14th, aside from it being Valentine's Day and a lovely day.
What I was thinking.
That's when Bond 25 comes out. So what's interesting about this positioning for Birds of Prey is that they're going to be right next to another fairly big film. So these two movies are going to be sort of competing with one another. And I guess it's interesting to see what's come of February lately. February used to be part of that like dead time of year. January, February, March. That's when the studios would just dump the movies that they stopped caring about. The I, Frankenstein type movies. They would just drop them in January, February. Let's just get it out of the way. This is not going to do much business. We already invested a bunch of time and money. Let's just get this out there and over with and move on with our lives. But then kind of like, a few years back, many years back actually, Cloverfield changed what people thought about January. Then Ride Along changed what people thought about January. And then, so January was suddenly reclaimed. Then in February, Deadpool kind of came out in 2016 and showed people that there's a huge audience for big movies in February as well. And then Black Panther came out last year this year.
This year.
February. This year has been going on for too long. I've had enough of this year. But but either way, so it's just interesting to see how like these release windows are starting to get more and more broad, where like there really kind of is no bad time of year to release a major studio film anymore. And I'm just it's intriguing to see February go from a month that nobody cared about to now you're going to have these two major studio tentpoles opening a week apart in February, drawing their battle lines. Do you guys have any opinions about this?
No, I think that's a great time for that to come out. I mean, and I think the audiences may overlap a little bit. Like I'm a huge James Bond fan, and I'm definitely interested in this Birds of Prey movie, so I'll be the person that goes to see both of them. But I think for the most part, there'll be some crossover, but you will probably have like separate audiences that are looking for like more of a like kick-ass like female action flick. With the comic book stuff. And then, I think the Bond franchise really encompasses like a pretty broad age range of people. So I think you'll get a lot of like maybe like older folks will probably still go see James Bond. They might not see Bird of Prey. Whereas like, the people, in the coveted like 18 to 34 age range, I think will probably, dip at both. You know what I mean? So they both seem like, fun movies maybe to like go out on like a Valentine's Day date and just have like a fun, action-y movie. So
yeah,
I think it'll be fine for both of them. I don't think they'll eat each other's lunch too much. So to speak.
Okay. All right. I think it's great for the daters in the world because you can go take one person to go see Birds of Prey, and then the following week you could take someone else to go see Bond 25.
Wow, player!
Like birds and some people like Bonds,
And you won't have to go see one movie twice. If you're dating around, I think that's great.
What an interesting angle to take. Who knew that Vanessa was such a player?
Birds of promiscuity.
Au contraire, my friend. Au contraire.
But check this out. Check this out. What I'm going to find very interesting to see how it plays out here is Bond typically comes out in November. Like that's kind of like the Bond audience has been sort of conditioned, especially through the Craig era. Is like these films come out in November, and originally this was going to come out in November of 2019. So I'm curious now because audiences are getting more and more conditioned to seeing a big superhero movie in February because of Deadpool and because of Black Panther. So what I'm getting at is I have a feeling Birds of Prey may be the big winner in February of 2020. And how huge would that be if a female-led DC superhero film directed by an Asian female director, Kathy Yan, is actually the big talk of the town in the month of February as opposed to Bond 25. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be amazing.
Because
but I think the buzz around I mean this might be like Daniel Craig's last Bond. I think they've been mostly received like pretty well, so I think that'll have it going for it. And I think people are really psyched about Cary Fukunaga taking over directing duties after what he did with True Detective, which I know obviously that's some phenomenal series.
Yeah.
So I think, that will, even though people were expecting it in November, I think you would think, okay, maybe people won't be as into it or not think about it. But I think because of the people involved being, like I said, being Craig's maybe last run and Cary Fukunaga in there, I think that's going to kind of give it the the legs, I guess, or the notoriety for people to still be kind of aware of it. And of course, I'm sure once we see like a trailer and like what's coming out with it, how the buzz is, it'll still make a pretty big splash.
By the way, Vanessa, how epic is it for you to see that these two tentpoles are both directed by Asian directors and they're opening a week apart? Like, that's another great subplot in this. Yeah, that's why it's almost like I don't want to pit them against each other. But how cool is it that we're going from Kathy Yan with Birds of Prey on February 7th to Cary Fukunaga with Bond 25 the following week? Isn't that pretty monumental?
That's so epic that I don't even know how to process it yet because I've never looked up to any Asian female film directors or even knew any before just recently. So I'm kind of like blown away. And then we're going to talk about Chloe Zhao later.
Yeah. This is like a huge time.
It's like the Asian explosion. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. And I was just looking up earlier. I was looking up Kathy Yan's IMDb and just seeing an image of her. I was like, oh, wow. I don't know. It really inspired me. And I saw. You. Yeah. And for once, it's kind of like, well, if she can do it, then that's great. That means like I can do it too. I don't know. It's a weird thing, and it seems very naive, but it makes me happy, and I can't wait to see it. Especially since looking at her credits, this is gonna be one of the biggest things that she's ever done.
Oh, easily the biggest thing. Yeah.
Easily the biggest thing, and I'm really curious how she even got there and what that's going to be like. I'm so excited. I'm just gonna go cry now. So
no, it's amazing to think too. On top of that, I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but Kathy Yan's had this gig for a while. But Crazy Rich Asians is currently having this huge wave of success, and then Cary Joji Fukunaga is hired for Bond 25. It just seems like we're suddenly riding this powerful sort of Asian wave in Hollywood, and I'm just it's exciting. It's going to be interesting to see if it's just like a trend, a fad, or if this just becomes normal now. I sincerely hope it does. But now we're going to move on to another story that takes another DC story. Since we're talking about Margot Robbie and Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey, let's talk a little Suicide Squad, because director David Ayer is in the headlines again this week because he's already kind of made a habit of going over on the Twitter and making some remarks that express some regret for decisions he made in Suicide Squad. In the past, he's regretted kind of going as big as he did with the villain. In the past, he's kind of he's been pretty hard on himself. And now he's going after one of the things that fans absolutely loathed. And it was that damaged tattoo on Joker's forehead. He agreed. We all thought it was a little on the nose. And, a fan on Twitter asked him, what was the inspiration behind the damaged tattoo on Joker's forehead? Was it your idea? He wrote, yes, I have to fall on that sword. It was one step too far. I love how just like blunt and straightforward he is, and it's interesting to see, like he's kind of been like learning and growing in front of us. He's been very open about it. Because, Suicide Squad was like his first huge, big budget, special effect, blockbuster extravaganza. Up until then, he had been more involved with like, small, grittier, character-driven, low-budget type stuff. Suicide Squad was his first chance to sort of really, swing for the fences and try to deliver some sort of, huge tentpole type movie. And it looks like he almost got a little, overwhelmed by it. Because when you look at that finale, like it's totally just hokey nonsense with a portal opening up over Gotham and a bunch of walking blackberries and a Sphinx man and a gyrating witch woman. Like it was insanity. And he's already walked back that. He's already said like that was a huge mistake. Left to his own devices, he would go back and he would make the Joker the antagonist in the film, which I think would have been a much better way to go. But it's just, isn't it sort of interesting to see a director really sort of like take it on the chin like this and go, yeah, I messed that up.
I found it really interesting that he just admitted defeat. Like the question was kind of an innocent question.
Yeah.
It's like, what's your inspiration? And maybe Ronster Monster really wanted to know, and maybe he's like gonna write a blog post about it or something if David actually answered him. But he just was like, yeah. Like,
it was awful.
it was the worst, which wasn't the question, and I just thought he feels really guilty about that, and he's probably been thinking about it a lot, especially with all the Joker news that's been coming up. So.
Yeah. And interestingly too, I've been giving some thought to this, where like there's been all this talk in the last year or so about releasing the Snyder cut of Justice League, and we all know that because of the fact that it's not 100% finished and the studio's not interested in releasing an unfinished movie, that's for the time being, that's a bit of a pipe dream. When it comes to Suicide Squad, though, we know for a fact that David Ayer, completed his movie and he completed his cut and it's completely finished. But that the studio ultimately recut it, reshot it, re-edited it. I shouldn't say reshot it, but like, they pushed for reshoots. They re-edited. There's like 6 versions of the movie floating around somewhere. And I'm just wondering, like, they should just release an Ayer cut of Suicide Squad. What would be the harm? You don't have to, it's done. You know what I mean? It's already sitting there. You don't have to do any additional special effects. You don't have to do anything special. Just release it. I feel like, I don't know. I don't see what the harm would be in that. I know a lot of fans would like it. I see nothing but an upside for the studio where it's like, listen, the movie was already profitable, so let's just squeeze a little more money out of that cash cow. Like, what do they have to lose, Brett?
For me, it's just like, let's leave the past in the past at this point. Like, I the whole like, let's get the Snyder cut, now let's have this director's cut, let's go to all this old stuff. I mean, I get what I can see both sides. Yeah, it's like what's the point? Like, why not release it? But also at this point, it's like, why release it other than like the money? Like it doesn't. It's not going to make people happy. It's not going to make them happy. Like they think they want it. The Snyder cut. Like you're still not going to get a continuation of it at this point. You know what I mean? Like I don't think they're going to branch off of that. There was obviously a lot of issues with the movie in the first place. Like you said, like that third act was an absolute mess in that movie. And like
that's probably
still going to be there.
Yeah.
So I mean, true. Like, so what? There's some extra scenes, maybe and that movie was just like an absolute mess in my opinion. Suicide Squad. It was edited like so. The pacing was so off, and the character introductions took forever. And
but that's the thing, though. I think, but that's the thing. That's why I feel like maybe his edit makes it better. Because that's the thing. I think David Ayer is a fairly talented filmmaker. Like, did either of you ever see End of Watch?
Yeah.
Like that movie to me was gripping and amazing and everything I want out of a movie. And he also wrote the script for Training Day. Like the guy's got some serious chops. So part of me is like, I would still just love to see how he arrives to that terrible third act. Like I know that like the third act's going to be what it is, which is unfortunate, and he's already apologized for it. But I can't help but feel like the journey to it may have been far more interesting and flowed much, much better than what we got. So kind of my stance is, you have the footage there, you have his cut of the movie, just, dump it onto a disc and sell it. People are going to buy it, and what's the harm at this point, But, maybe that's
true, but you know what? Artists we're gonna fail, and we just have to keep trying. And he tried something, and it didn't work. And I almost feel like he must have had in his head that he needed to make a specific type of film, and was trying to please. It seemed like he was trying to please a lot of people instead of like with movies like End of Watch. Perhaps he was thinking like, you know what, no one might watch this movie, and I'm gonna do what I feel is honest and true and right. And maybe with this opportunity, he freaked out. Maybe, hence all the ideas went into the soup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a little overstuffed.
Instead of like, I'm only gonna use a few ingredients. You know, like a great French chef.
Right. But you know what I mean? Like, also, like, if that with that third act being such a mess, like, what does it matter if the first 2/3 are better if it ultimately culminates in just like a hula hoop disaster?
All right, you know what? You're just a hater. You're just a hater. We're gonna move on.
I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater. It doesn't matter if it's just gonna end up in the same. If it's gonna change the entire ending of the film, fine. But if it's just gonna be like, so I have to go, like another movie where the first 2/3 are good and the third act falls apart. You know, it's just, what's the point? I don't know.
But you know, but for you guys as actors, as fellow actors, aren't you just a little curious to see what Jared Leto really had in mind? Because that was one of the areas that got really chopped down for the theatrical cut. You know, they say like 90% of the stuff he shot for the film is not in the film. And we know that he went full on crazy with like method acting. He committed so hardcore to that portrayal of the Joker.
Yeah.
A part of me, just for the sake of like seeing what he really had in store for us, I'd be curious to see, you know, Ayer's original, you know, vision for the film. You know, even if just for that, because I know people, it's very, you know, people hate on Jared Leto's Joker and whatever. I've never been one of those people who does it. I've always been of the mind that we didn't really see enough of him to really judge. He was like, to me, it felt like a glorified cameo. He'd pop up for like a few moments here and there, but I feel like I don't really know what he's about. Why he is the way he is. Who is this Joker? You know, so that's
it almost seems like that epic thing was taken away from him.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, you know, they gave him this iconic role, and he went deep into his actor mind cave and created this very interesting version of the character that he was very happy and ambitious to share with the world. And then they chopped 90% of it off. Right. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like I you know, maybe it's selfish, but, you know, I want to see that performance. And that's why I kind of am in the release the Ayer cut bandwagon, so to speak. But all right, now let's move on. You earlier on you referenced Chloe Zhao, so let's go ahead and talk about the fact that she just landed a gig directing Marvel's The Eternals.
The Eternals.
I mean, I think that's pretty huge. You know, listen. One of the things I feel like people aren't making a big enough deal about is, up until now, for better or worse, the big thing with female directors has been, or rather like the way they've been treated is, okay, it's a movie about a woman, so we'll hire a woman director. You know what I mean? This is not about just a woman. This is about an entire team. This is about the Eternals, and they're giving her this entire ensemble to play with. To me, that makes this even more monumental. You know, it gets me thinking back to what I was saying last year, that I would love it if DC had hired Patty Jenkins to direct the follow-up to Justice League, which now is, you know, now it's a pipe dream. We're not going to get a Justice League 2 for a very long time. But either way, like I think it's monumental to start just hiring women directors for movies that are not just about women. You know what I mean? To me, that's the big takeaway from what's so cool about Marvel hiring her for the Eternals.
Agreed.
What do you think,
Here,
Brett?
here.
I think it's really great that they hired her for it. That sounds awesome. I was trying to like look up a little bit about this team, and it sounds like, you know, just crazy. Like it's really like,
this is going to be a weird movie, by the way. Yeah, this is going to be a
very
big, interesting
ambitious
movie. And a part of me wonders too, by the way, with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 kind of like getting delayed and pushed off, and this suddenly getting some momentum, I wonder if like maybe they're going to like take some of what James Gunn had in mind with Guardians Volume, because James Gunn was going to sort of oversee the cosmic end of things. I wonder if they're going to maybe shift some of that and make the Eternals be the big movie that brings us into that chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know,
it's really interesting because I was looking at I haven't seen her films, but I watched the trailer for The Rider and Songs My Brother Taught Me.
Yeah.
Which were her two big films that she won, awards for, and it premiered at Sundance and things like that. And the tone, I can't match it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, So I'd be really interested to see how she's going to translate everything. I'm only basing
off
it
the trailers,
off of the trailers and what she's done, and the way of her storytelling seems very quiet, very focused, and almost very slow moving, and a lot of beautiful images. The Rider won like best cinematography. The images are gorgeous, but we're talking Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, things move fast. Like, there's action and there's so much more going on than just this barren landscape. Both films have a cowboy, horses, big fields. One takes place in an Indian reservation. So the imagery, I'm so curious how that's going to translate, and what she's going to envision for this world.
Yeah. I mean, and also just, you got to hand it to Marvel Studios, too. They seem to have sort of adapted this concept of, we're going to take like these indie directors, people who've made nothing but small movies, and we're going to invest in them to kind of like bring them up to the next level through our films, in terms of like, they got John Watts to do Spider-Man Homecoming, and up until that point, all his big claim to fame was a little, indie darling called Cop Car. And then you had Ryan Coogler, who, yes, he had Creed. That was big. I shouldn't say that was, like a little movie. But overall, Coogler hadn't quite broken out yet. He was known for smaller, more intimate films. You had Taika Waititi, who was still also kind of like, he had made a couple of smaller sort of cult classics, but he hadn't really gone into blockbuster territory yet. Kevin Feige seems to have this thing where he really wants to get, like, undiscovered talent, new, like, up-and-coming people who are just, who haven't fully established themselves yet, and bringing them into the Marvel Studios machine. And I think that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty ambitious.
Yeah,
I feel
love
it's
that.
also a little bit because they're probably like, listen, we're going to give you a really big break, do one of these really high-profile movies. You're going to learn how to work with special effects and these big teams and all that stuff. But since you're new, you got to, also make sure
you got to
you
play ball.
Follow the plan. You got to play ball. We're going to teach you how to work in a studio setting and, listen to the overlords. So I think they, and it's a cynical view, but I think a lot of it has to do with that. Like they have a little, he probably feels like he can manipulate things a little bit more. Whereas when you get somebody with like a big ego to come in, we see how that works out with people leaving projects left and right all the time, especially on the DC front and a lot of other things where the studio meddling becomes very, involved.
That is a good point. You cynical cynic, you.
I know. Look at me.
But all right, now we're going to move on over to Black Widow. So there's a rumor. But by the way, wasn't the first thing we ever talked about?
There's a Roomba, like the robot vacuum.
There's a Roomba. No, by the way, isn't the first thing we ever discussed Black Widow? Am I misremembering that our very first little like preview episode was the day that they announced that the Black Widow movie seemed to be happening?
That definitely sounds about right.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool to sort of circle back to how it all began.
Happy anniversary.
Kind of, yeah. There's this rumor about when, a particular period in time that the Black Widow movie is going to take place, or at least visit at some point, and that is the Y2K hysteria of, New Year's Eve 1999. The rumor comes courtesy of MCU Cosmic writer over there named Jeremy Conrad. He has a source that basically, he says that Y2K will factor into the story, and if we're looking at the MCU canon, that means that, Natasha Romanoff, a.k.a. Black Widow, she's going to be like 15 for that whatever sequences that is. So it's going to be like, we've heard before that there's going to be multiple, there's going to be two different timelines, like a present day and a flashback timeline. So now we seem to know when that flashback is going to be. Are you guys sort of intrigued by any of this? Does a Black Widow movie that explores her teen years as under the control of the Red Room kind of appealing to you? Or are you like, nah, Jennifer Lawrence already made Red Sparrow. I kind of don't need that anymore.
I am excited about this, and I'm also really mad about this.
Oh?
Yes, I am really excited because I think this is the hook that the film needs in terms of exploring her as a 15-year-old. I love that it's going to be, told in past and present, especially for her character. So that is really great. And then secondly, I'm really mad because I'm writing a screenplay right now, and it factors Y2K into it, and my young protagonist is also a teenage girl going through it. So
And is she an assassin?
she's not an assassin.
All right,
but
I think you're okay.
I was like, no, they stole my idea. I mean, it's not my idea. A lot of people went through it, but I think it's a fantastic idea if I don't say so myself.
And it's called Blue Debutante. No, I have no idea.
No, oh my God, that was
really
hilarious.
bad.
That was a bad joke. No, I think overall it's great. I think I remember growing up during that time, and we really thought that we didn't think the world, I mean, some people thought the world was going to end, but we thought we were going to wake up and things were going to be drastically different. And I love that suspense and that feeling in a film like this. It warrants it. It adds to it. So I think that's a really good idea.
And it makes you wonder, too, if this Red Room organization was maybe part of it or trying to prevent it. Or it'd be interesting if they try to rewrite history a little bit. Maybe there was going to be some sort of big crash, but maybe she somehow helped avoid it or something. I don't know.
They're Russians, They're gonna try and be involved.
There's no collusion. There's no collusion.
Russians gonna do what Russians gonna do,
But yeah, I mean, personally, I don't, I could do without any flashbacks. What I really wanted, my vision for Black Widow has always been this should be Marvel's John Wick. It should be about her in the present day on a solo side mission that's very sort of intimate and self-contained. Takes place over the course of maybe 2 or 3 days, where she has to go and maybe find her old mentor and right a wrong, so to speak, or as she's trying to clear the red in her ledger.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Maybe that's what it is, but then it has flashbacks and ties into an earlier experience that she had at the Red Room, and maybe it's coming back to haunt her from the past, and now she has to rectify it. So I mean, I think what you're saying could totally happen with these little flashbacks involved. I can't imagine it being a really heavy element. Maybe just a couple of little things here and there to kind of plant seeds early on, and then later oh wow, that's what those are. I'm amazed.
No, I disagree. No, then it's gonna be another Lucy.
Exactly, It's Scarlett Johansson.
And that movie was very successful.
Yeah, it was.
It was, but I don't know. I at the end of the day, I just hope they keep it a nice, low-budget, grounded, character-driven story where we get to see her, kick butt, take names, do some pretty, ruthless, interesting things, but keep it gritty and intimate and small. I hope they don't make it too big. I think Black Widow, works in a real sort of, just stripped down story. I don't need a lot of bells and whistles.
Disagree.
Oh,
you want it to be like Winter Soldier 2.0 with her as the lead, that big and just all the characters weaving in and out.
No, not all the characters, but I feel like she shouldn't just be portrayed as, what Mario sees her as. I think it would be really great to delve into her backstory and see where she comes from, and I would just like to see that. I would like to see a Black Widow that maybe half of the film is played by her as a 15-year-old and that it's another actress. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that would be great.
Yeah, I'm curious of what they're going to do about that, because they already did a flashback in Age of Ultron, and I think what they tried to do was a little digital de-aging. But I wonder if it's going to be a full-on sequence or multiple sequences do they want to do the de-aging thing that whole time, or or are they better off just hiring a teenage actress who
No, they
looks
should
like her?
they should find a teenage actress. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. You know what else I think is pretty cool?
What?
Who Pedro Pascal is apparently playing in Wonder Woman 1984. So there's an interesting rumor that has hit the web, courtesy of Super Bro Movies, that apparently Pedro Pascal, after all the, is he playing like a male cheetah? Is he Sebastián Ballesteros? Like, is he Dr. Fate? Who is he? And now, according to Super Bro Movies, they know who he's playing. He's playing a god. He's playing the god. Actually, they don't specify, but it sounds like he's playing Hades. So how they describe it is, actually, you know what? Brett, you read the rumor courtesy of Super Bro Movies.
As most fans assumed, Pascal does indeed play a villain in the highly anticipated sequel. He'll be joined by Kristen Wiig's Cheetah, but he's not your typical antagonist. He is a god in disguise, similarly to Ares in the first film, but he'll affect the story in a much different way. Disguised as a businessman, he makes a deal with Diana that she'll do his bidding, and in exchange, he'll bring the love of her life back, Steve Trevor.
See, I mean, I actually kind of really dig that, because I love that conceit in the whole making a deal with the devil, and like, what happens when like you get something in return, but if you're not careful, it's always like the devil always kind of like rigs the game a little bit, and you have to be very careful. And I like that storytelling conceit. It's been used in lots of different films, and it's a trope that I enjoy, and it's one that we haven't yet seen play out in like a modern day superhero movie. That's for sure. And it also explains why Steve Trevor's back, and I kind of like that, because up until now I was kind of on the fence about like, why is Chris Pine here? He died in the first movie. That was such a monumental death. I cry ugly tears every time it happens. Just leave him dead, though. Bringing him back felt cheap. But you know what? If they're going to tie it into this whole thing, like a deal with Hades, and maybe we are going to lose him again because she is going to have to renege on her deal and whatever, suddenly now I'm intrigued by what this Steve Trevor return is all about, as opposed to going, oh, no, leave him dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but here's the thing, too, is like, is that gonna undermine like what they built with Wonder Woman in the first movie, where like now she's like pining after like a lost love who's a man, you know what I mean? Like, does that kind of like undermine everything, that it's all like a woman, it goes back to that typical archetype, of like, the woman pining for the man and needing the man in her life and all that stuff. Like I worry. I mean, I guess if they handle it properly, but I worry that like that kind of undermines all that, Yeah,
I pine for Chris Pine.
Oh,
I see what you did there.
Hashtag pine for Chris Pine.
Pining for Pine. Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean, and I guess I don't think either of us is equipped to answer that. So, Vanessa, do you, as someone who enjoys seeing empowered females on screen, would you feel like it weakens Diana, or somehow lessens what a powerful female role model she is, to suddenly have her sort of desperate to have Steve back, so desperate that she makes a deal with the devil?
No, I don't think so. I think love is the greatest power of all. And
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Brett is cynical tonight.
I don't think just because she's a powerful woman that she needs to be alone and say like, I don't need a man's love because I'm powerful and, I love myself. I feel like that's one of those things that everyone can relate to. I like that.
Okay, so Brett, shut your face.
If she's like, okay, I'm gonna, get into a different like a French maid costume and start cleaning the house for you, and I'm gonna leave this career for you, then that's a different story.
Think about how fast she could clean, though.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not friends with you either.
And that's when Brett was fired.
I did want to talk about some other stuff, though, kind of tied into this. And especially, I'm looking at our article and other things we've been talking about, other things that are floating around. So we have the new Wonder Woman movie is going to take place in 1984.
Yes.
We have the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, which is going to take place in the 80s. The rumors now surrounding Supergirl are that it's going to take place in the 70s. So we're seeing a lot of more period pieces, if you will, possibly being introduced into the DC universe, or whatever. It might not even be a universe anymore. It might end up just being whatever, just like these standalone Elseworld things.
It exists.
But is that really is that maybe what DC's really looking to do now? Like, might we see like Matt Reeves' Batman take place in the 90s? Is that going to be the thing? Is like where we're going to go back to these superhero stories, but tell them in past time periods to make them different from the modern day Marvel stuff? Is that it? Kind of looks like that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny
Right?
you
It's
mentioned
interesting.
Reeves in the 90s because, if we follow the timeline and the rumors attached to Reeves, then he's looking to make a Batman that's 15 to 20 years younger than Ben Affleck's Batman. And that would put him smack dab in the mid to late 90s. So in theory, if they are sticking to that the Reeves Batman is also going to be a period piece. So this might be an interesting sort of roundabout workaround to avoid the current canon as they're trying to distance themselves from the last couple of years. Setting movies that take place way before Batman v Superman is an interesting way to try to sidestep that while they try to figure out what comes next.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, I mean, you obviously at that time, you don't really have the internet, you don't have cell phones, you don't have all these modern, technological advances. So, in a way, it's super interesting, to tell to go back. I mean, we had those stories before, but maybe we took them for granted, because also they weren't, as serious as we take the genre now. When we look back at Batman Forever, Batman Returns, original Batman. I mean, those were taking place in '89 and whatever, '92 and '96 or whatever, however it broke out. I forgot. So yeah, it's a very interesting prospect. And I guess, you think they could actually start tying that into a shared universe, though, that takes place, in those decades or something, and just do it that way to just really make it stand out? I don't know. I
mean, there definitely is a way to weave everything together. I mean, it takes a lot of mental acrobatics, but there is a certain way to weave, especially with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker and Batman and stuff. I know people say, how can that connect? But they revealed last week that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is going to feature a kid Bruce Wayne. It's going to have a young Bruce Wayne in it. And if that's the case, and this is Joker's origin, right? So that means that, if you fast forward to when Reeves is setting his thing in the late 90s, by then Bruce will have grown up, and by then Joker will no longer be an origin. He would be the full-fledged established Joker.
Yeah, but he'll be geriatric.
Well, 15 years older is not that much. Think about how much older Cesar Romero was than Adam West.
Yeah, well, that doesn't count at all because that is just
even Jack Nicholson's Joker was way older than Michael Keaton's Batman. You know what I mean? I think it's sort of canon for Joker to be a fair amount older than Bruce. Maybe not 20, 30 years, but definitely older. So
I like them to be more contemporaries. Personally, I just want him to also the Joker gets physical with Batman in the comics. It's not, just a game of a mind game and the tricks and the traps and everything like that. I want someone that could kind of go toe to toe. But I mean, if you have this, Olympic shape, prime Batman and some dude who's in his 50s or 60s, I mean, Batman's going to totally, wreck him. He's going to make toast out of him.
Now, while we're talking about good old Batsy, let's talk a little bit about Batham. Because your boy John Hamm's been making a lot of waves lately talking about Batman. A, he says he wants to play him. B, he talks about how he's actually very well versed in the books. And now there's this, a new story going around about which stories he actually really, really likes, about, which Batman stories he's into. So let me ask you, Brett, how excited are you right now?
I am beyond excited. I'm sure nothing's gonna come of this, but I'm just super excited to actually see him acknowledging it now, in public. And I'm hoping it's like getting studio interested, or they're talking to him about it and being like, "Hey, we heard you're interested." Because he also said in another interview that like he actually has met with like I think like Warner Brothers and these people, but no one mentioned or offered him anything involving Batman before. But now that he's talking about it, and maybe they see the fan reaction, but it's interesting, right? Like the two stories he mentioned that he really liked. So he, of course, like every single person, I feel, throughout Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. So, you know, which, I mean, again, we kind of ish got that with, you know, Batman vs. Superman, you know, in Snyder's version.
Yeah.
But then he also calls out Flashpoint, which originally everyone really wanted Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who was Thomas Wayne in the little flashback sequence in Batman v Superman, to play him in a Flashpoint. But, you know, if they did end up doing a Flashpoint, hey, John Hamm, I think, could definitely pull it off there too. But that's not what I want. I want him to be regular Batman. and whatever this new universe or Elseworld story it's going to be, I want him to be legit Batman, not old Frank Miller Batman, and not you know, Thomas Wayne Batman.
You want to say Batman one more time?
I'll say Bat-Ham a few more times.
Bat-Ham. No.
It's going to happen. We're going to make it happen.
While we're talking about Batman, also, just this was not on the agenda, but somebody pointed this out to me about an hour before we recorded, that some like publicity firm type thing, doesn't matter, posted a thing on Instagram, though, with Ben Affleck saying, "We had a great afternoon with Ben Affleck. 2019 is going to be crazy." And then what everyone is focusing on is that they put the emoji of a video camera, the emoji of a bat, and the emoji of like an explosion. And people are like, does this mean that Ben Affleck and Warner Brothers have decided to sort of keep things going after all? Now listen, I don't know. You know, I mean, it's always been a possibility. But I also pointed out that on that post, if you keep going, right now it's funny, the people who are sharing it on Twitter, they cropped out the rest of what's on the post. And in the post, you know, yes, it mentions hashtag Batman, hashtag Dark Knight, but it also says hashtag Pearl Harbor, hashtag Goodwill Hunting, hashtag Jack Ryan. It kind of seems like
everything that Ben Affleck's been in.
Yeah, like it seems like they may just be trying to boost the post by putting a bunch of things that will draw attention to their, like, it's like a PR firm or something. So I'm like, you know, like, so on the one hand, it is very provocative for them to put the bat symbol and say that 2019 is going to be great. But you know, if you look at the rest of the hashtags, it also looks like whoever wrote that post is just kind of like name dropping everything Ben Affleck's been a part of because they're trying to get into the Ben Affleck business. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just kind of wanted to float that by there. You know, like, Brett, do you have any opinions on that? Do you think it could be a valid thing, or, you know, do you think it's just nonsense?
Yeah. I don't know at this point. I saw the same thing, and I was like, I got a little excited for a second too because I saw it, and I was like, oh, as I've said, as much as I want John Hamm, I'm a big fan of Affleck in the role, and I want to see him get like a very good Batman film for him to really, you know, show his stuff, so to speak. Yeah. Because you know, the other ones I think have not really been able to. Well, you know, obviously they were the focus was split. You know, between him and Superman, and Justice League split between all the other characters. I want to see something where he gets to like really dig deep and you know, whatever, blah blah blah. So I did get excited for a second, but I mean, I don't think there's much behind it. I mean, he's obviously also Ben Affleck. You know, in his personal life's going through a lot right now, and I don't know. I think like. No, like, why is that funny? He is going through a lot right now, and I think, you know, like, he needs to focus on like his recovery and stuff like that, and, you know, with all like the drama around DC films and stuff, like, I don't think he really needs it. You know what I mean? And he doesn't need it. He doesn't need this role for his career. He doesn't need the money, and he doesn't need all the hassle when he's trying to, like, you know, get his life on track. So I don't know.
I hear you. All right. Aww. Fair enough. Now I have a very important question.
Just laughing at people while they're down.
I'm not laughing. Just the way you said it was like he was your best friend.
Vanessa's like, we have Asian directors now. I don't care about any white people.
Wow.
That's not true. I'm still half white.
This week on The Revengers, things get racial. All right, so I have a question for you guys. Do you ever take the suggestions that your streaming apps give you?
Sometimes.
Like whenever
maybe
it's like, because you like this, watch this, or or whenever like it pushes like a thing when you open Netflix, it usually opens right up into a trailer now. Like, do you ever like pay any attention to that, or do you just kind of blow right past that?
Usually in the comedy category.
Okay, all right.
only in the
depending on
comedy.
the genre.
Yeah.
Well, because like I asked this because we've been discussing the streamers on here a lot. I feel like it's kind of been a recurring theme, kind of like this revolution in television that's happening where everything is changing. And Netflix is doing something next month that I'm actually rather intrigued about. I'm kind of happy that they're doing, and I'm hoping it becomes a trend. And for the month of October, they have this promotion going on. It's like Netflix and chills. Get it? And what they're doing is like they're releasing a bunch of like horror themed content to go along with the fact that it's October, that it's Halloween month, and I think that's brilliant. They're really on October 1st. They're going to have The Shining, then they have Truth or Dare, then they have some Netflix original called Creeped Out. I'm not going to go down the whole list, but basically for the whole month, they're going to be releasing every couple of days a new horror film, and I think to me. I hope this becomes a trend. I like the idea of the people who run these things actually sort of curating a list of entertainment that they want you to see, to kind of focus on certain things. Because honestly, a lot of times I go on Netflix or Amazon Prime and I don't know what to watch because there's just so much. I'm overwhelmed. Like sometimes I'll literally sit there for like 40 minutes just looking through trailers and scrolling around and adding things to my queue, not watch anything, get sleepy and go to bed. You know what I mean? And I wanted to watch
that all the
something.
time.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like I know it's weird to ask for a streaming service to sort of hold my hand a little bit. Isn't that why I'm moving away from television? But I actually kind of do like the idea of them going, here's a playlist. Here's some stuff. Here's the programming that we think you should check out this month or this week.
You know what, though? I feel like they've always done this. Like in October, they always put like a ton of like horror films or shows like on for that
but
month.
It always felt more
like it just seems this month they're branding it now. Now it's like, oh, now it's Netflix and chills. But like they've been doing that, but now they're gonna have like a little row for you to look at, and then after you watch that, they'll be like, since you like Halloween, you'll definitely like old women baking, and you'll get some weird recommendation that has nothing to do with it because I get that all the time, which is why I don't pay attention to those half the time.
Can we watch a show called Old Women Baking? I'm all in on that.
I'm all in.
Sure that is a show.
Hashtag old women baking. Hashtag blue debutante. Hashtag that hen.
Murder and blood, so you'll love.
Pine for pine.
It's like
hashtag pining for pine.
Sitting on a bench.
Well, by the way, because like just for example though, like right now, I don't know if either of you have Hulu, but I have Hulu open in front of me, and I like what they do, where the first tab is just something called lineup. And every night it's different. And they basically, almost like a TV network would, they put together a slate of shows every night that if you kind of don't want to think and you kind of want to just watch stuff, they kind of got you covered on that end. You know what I mean? And I don't know, for some reason, I kind of like that. Because, I mean, maybe it's silly, but I do. I'm tired of just endlessly scrolling around. I kind of want to be nudged in a certain direction.
Yeah, it's like opening up a menu and going straight to the lunch special. Specials.
Oh, and you can just open up a menu and have a stroke.
Wow.
That was
this episode of the
mean.
Revenge is brought to you by Brett's Dark Soul. Okay, so anyway.
Okay, that was a really bad analogy on this episode, but
how is that a lunch special? I want to know where you're going with that.
Meaning, like, it takes the guesswork out of things, You ever open up a Chinese takeout menu and there's so many items, you're like, I don't know what to eat, and you just flip to the back and you're like, I'm going to choose a lunch special?
Yes, all the time.
Just me, all the time.
It's a curated selection of choices that they'd rather make for you.
Yeah, or you look at everything and you spend an hour deciding and then you still order the beef and broccoli like you do every single time.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
But so then I don't know. I think we seem a little divided on this. So I want to open this up to the listeners. Folks, you let us know on Twitter, do you like the idea of the streaming services kind of guiding you towards certain entertainment, kind of putting together a list of themed things that they think you should watch, or these theme months like Netflix looks like they're going to be doing in a more overt way now? Or do you just prefer it to be, leave me alone, let me just open my app, and I'm going to find what I want to watch, and I don't want to be bothered? Let us know what you think of that. Personally, I kind of like being nudged because it gets overwhelming, the amount of stuff sometimes, and just kind of having to take some of the guesswork out of it. You know what? You want me to watch this? This looks fairly decent. I'm going to watch this. So let us know what you think about that sort of thing. And now I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up on the Bumblebee trailer. So did you guys get a chance to watch the new Bumblebee trailer that arrived?
Bumblebee tuna?
Bumblebee tuna?
Bumblebee tuna?
Did you watch it?
I saw it. I saw it, yes.
So let's go one at a time. Vanana, what did you think of the new Bumblebee tuna?
It was okay. My favorite part was seeing John Cena.
Of course.
So I think that says a lot.
Okay. All right.
It was cute, but I felt like it was the same formula as the other story.
Oh, wow.
Was it the same trans formula?
Oh, wow.
Hashtag trans formula. Okay.
Except, who Bumblebee defends is now a girl instead
I could not disagree with you more, but okay. I'll have my turn in the sun.
It was cute. I didn't particularly liked how it was edited and what clips they showed, but they could have been hiding more good stuff, you know?
You're the worst. Okay, Brett, what do you think?
Well, yeah, it definitely, for me, it had more of the like the 80s movies kind of feel, or even more of like the cartoon feel and aesthetic to it. For one, I mean, the actual look of the Transformers is probably how they should have looked all along. Like, instead of like the weird Michael Bay designs, like they actually like look exactly like they did in the cartoon. There is a quick shot of Optimus in there, Starscream, and even the way Bumblebee looks, it's like legit like the cartoon, that's awesome. But I'm getting more of like that like Short Circuit, Johnny Five kind of vibe from it, more than the CG crapfest that was the first 9 Transformer movies ever they made. The first 2 were good. I didn't care for any of the other ones. I don't even think I didn't see the 4th one. I think I might have saw parts of the 3rd one. The first 2 were okay. But yeah, it seems to have a little more heart, a little more soul. It's definitely it's playing on the nostalgia. It's doing the thing that Stranger Things has done, where it's like an homage to the Goonies, and the way what was the movie that did the thing, Super 8. That was like a very Spielbergian, kind of homage, and it feels like an homage to, like I said, Short Circuit, and what's another one, Iron Giant, kind of style and tone. So yeah, I'm actually, at first when they first announced this, I was just like, oh, really? Like another one? Like they're rebooting the Transformers franchise. It came, like the last one came out like 2 years ago with Mark Wahlberg. But now I'm like, oh, I think this trailer is good. I think it's going to be great, and it takes place in the 80s. Let's just keep putting things in the past, right?
Well, yeah. you know what's funny though, because you're not the first one to mention the 80s thing and the nostalgia. For me, that doesn't even factor in. Like I saw the trailer and I loved it, and I was very surprised because I'm not a Transformers person. I never watched the cartoons. I have no inherent connection to the Transformers. I've never watched a single episode of any version of the Transformers. The only movie I ever saw was the first one, and I actually enjoyed the first hour or so of it. Then halfway in, it just kind of got silly for me, and I just checked out, and I never went back. So I'm not at all a Transformers person. So I watched this trailer going, all right, yeah, I'm sure this is going to be great. And then I found myself like, wow, this actually looks surprisingly heartfelt and emotional, and it's grounded in like a human connection between Bumblebee and Haley Steinfeld's character. And then I saw it's directed by Travis Knight, who directed Kubo and the Two Strings, which was arguably like my favorite animated film of the last few years. And I'm like, what? This is going to be something special. This is the first Transformers movie not directed by Michael Bay, where the emphasis does not seem to be on just blowing stuff up. It seems to have a little, there's more at play here. The relationship between the two main characters is very important. The way they're, like reintroducing the mythology to me seems a lot more just, I don't know. I'm much more invested in this than I was in any Transformers thing I've ever been associated with or around. So I'm actually very, very intrigued by this movie. I thought this last trailer was, to me, it felt like the Iron Giant in live action. And now I understand why it's testing so well. Because, about a month or so ago, some of the first test screening reactions came out, and I started hearing stories about standing ovations at the test screenings. And I'm like, really? For a Transformers movie? But apparently, this movie is going to surprise a lot of people. And that's one of the reasons, too, by the way, where I think it would be extremely wise for somebody to change their release date. Because right now, it's utter chaos. On December 19th, you're going to have Bumblebee, you're going to have Aquaman, and you're going to have Mary Poppins Returns. All coming out at the same time. It's just chaos. Somebody has to move. I don't know who it's going to be, but right now they are risking big time, cannibalizing each other's audiences here. And that's why for me, as the DC fanatic that by the way, I'm off by 2 days. Bumblebee is December 21st. So, okay. The Aquaman and Mary Poppins Returns get 2 days head start on Bumblebee. But the point is, these three massive movies, which are all to a certain degree going to be playing to family audiences. Because, Aquaman is going to be, it looks like it's going to be like a rollicking action adventure. They're going to be trying to get people to come see their PG-13 action blockbuster. And then you have Mary Poppins Returns and Bumblebee, which, they're going to be going after a lot of the same people. And this is a very bad idea for them to all be opening at the same time. So something's got to give, and I'm anxious about how good Bumblebee looks as a DC fan.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mario, you should watch the second Transformers movie, whatever it was called.
Yeah?
Because there's one part where Optimus Prime grabs one of the Decepticons, I forgot who, and he literally just goes, "Give me your face." And then he rips his face off, and it's pretty crazy.
Okay, I'm sold.
Just watch it just for that.
I take back everything I said. I'm sold. Give me your face. I have to see it.
He says, "Give me your face," and he just rips his face off. It's the coolest thing ever. And it's Peter Cullen voicing it, which is just even better. You could just, honestly, that's probably like a half hour, 45 minutes into the movie when they have the big first battle in this forest and they're using trees as clubs. It's kind of cool.
Well, rest assured, Brett, this referral is going to go, it's number 73 on my list. So I will get to it. By the year 2032, I will see that great line. So thank you for that.
Sounds good.
But you know what, everyone? What?
I'll find it for you on YouTube.
Thank you. But you know what, everyone? I think that about does it for episode 29 of The Revengers. Vanessa, why don't you let people know how they can find you over on the Twitter?
Sure. You guys can find me at Vanessa Bontea, Bontea.
And Brett Thomas Miro, how can they find you, and where else can they hear your lovely dulcet tones?
Oh, well, they can find me at BT Miro, and they can also hear me every week along with Rob Moreira and Jeremy Scully on the Play It Loud cast. And you can get us on Twitter at Play It Loud RTF. And, of course, get the podcast wherever podcasts are found.
And the Play It Loud cast specializes in what exactly, Bretterson?
Oh, we are the official gaming podcast of Revenge of the Fans.
Yeah, you are. You got to make sure people know that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gaming goodness going on right now with Spider-Man PS4 out and all kinds of amazing things. You got to hear what they're saying about what's going on, because these guys are seriously committed to gaming, and they're a blast. But as for me over on Twitter, you can find me at I_am_MFR. And you could also find my writings and ramblings every day on revengeofthefans.com. And, of course, every Friday afternoon, I release my solo podcast where I just kind of rant and rave about whatever's going on at the time. And that one's called The Fanboy Podcast, so you can check that one out as well. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Until next week, we are the Revengers, and we'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be doing stuff.
This weekend at the box office, I have no idea. I don't even know.
Can you just...
I have no idea how to begin this segment, so I'm going to stop again. This weekend at the box office, one movie rose head and shoulders above the rest, and that was The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Oh, God. We're just going to have to keep going. Everyone, we're laughing because I've tried to start this segment so many times, and this was the best I could do. So we're just going to keep it. It's fine.
That's not the only reason.
No, well, it's the one we can talk about. So, The House with a Clock in Its Walls opens to 26. Guys, I'm trying to run a show here. So,
You did this to yourself.
Nobody's laughing with us because no one knows why I'm trying. Okay. Professionalism. The House with a Clock in Its Walls opens to 26.6. It was. This is a disgrace.
This has to go to the end. We have to get at the end of the episode.
All right, everybody. My Twitter handle is Vanessa Bontea. Tweet me.
Oh, God. Okay.
All right, 26.6 million.
26.6 million.
Guys, I really want to know about Bati Ghoul Meter Chalu.
What?
It's like number 28 on the list.
There's a movie
Bati
called
Ghoul Meter Chalu. We have to start this whole segment over. This can't be it.
No, I believe in us. We can bounce back. We just gave people a minute and 50 seconds of terrible podcasting, but
oh God,
we can get this back on the rails. So everybody, check it out. The House with a Clock in Its Walls.
This is the worst movie title ever.
Okay, it opened at $26.6 million. It cost $42 to make.
Just $42 to make the whole movie. Jack Black just took like 3 lunches as payment.
Oh, this is bad. I'm crying.
Oh, Christ.
Okay. We can do
Number
this.
2. Forget about number 1. Just go on to number 2.
So The House with the Clock in Its Walls did okay, I guess.
Yes, and listen, okay. The story is that it did very well because it made $26.6 million, and then in second place, I gotta stop. I can't do this anymore.